The key thought is the funnel is not the same thing as buyer journey, okay? As you can tell, I'm pretty passionate about the topic of buyer journey. And I know just from listening to a couple of the presentations from yesterday and even earlier today, there's been a lot of talk about buyer journeys, customer journeys, messaging around go-to-market. So why is this important? Well, let me present a couple of scenarios to you guys. So the first scenario is a sales rep, an account executive, just got out of a demo with a prospect. AE thought she did a great job, went through all the key features of the product. The demo went an hour long, and then at the end of the demo, the prospect says, "Looked great. Why don't you reach back out to me in 6 or 9 months, and we'll reconnect then," right? Scenario number one. Scenario number two, if you're an SDR, you probably have done your fair share of outbound. Working in early stage startups, I've had to put in my dues and do cold calling myself. And many of you, and even for me today, I probably get 10 of these types of messages via LinkedIn, which is, "Hey, my name is so-and-so. I work at this company. We do this." And then they name drop a few customers, and then they say, "What does your schedule look like for an hour in the next week?" And it's no surprise that most of the time, they're not going to get a response, right? There's some studies that show, I think on average, a 6 to 8% response, which is, it is what it is. And just so that I don't sound like I'm picking on salespeople, here's an example from marketing. And I've been in this spot before where I'll just put myself in these shoes. Hey, I just generated a bunch of MQLs for you guys, sales team. They're target account leads. We were running an ABM strategy. And these are a bunch of leads that just downloaded one ebook or one white paper from a content syndication program. Hey, they're all target accounts. Why aren't you guys following up on these leads? Why aren't they converting, right? So, I see a few knowing smiles. Probably you guys have gone through this or seen this or at least experienced it before. So why am I talking about buyer journey, even though a lot of people have already talked about buyer journey? Let me be clear. So what I wanted to focus on today is the buyer journey decision process or decision framework, about how buyers go through the process of decision making to look for a solution. One of the key takeaways that I hope to leave you guys with is we all know in B2B, we all have the concept of the funnel, right? That's not a new concept. Many of you, especially if you're in marketing, sales, we're at a go-to-market conference, so you guys are familiar with terms like MQL, SQL, et cetera, et cetera. The key thought is the funnel is not the same thing as buyer journey, okay? I know many of us know that, but we still operate and execute our go-to-market strategies thinking that it's the same thing. So the slides are a little bit messed up during the transition, but essentially, the funnel, the marketing and sales funnel is a way for us to measure and track our growth, right? It's also a way to help us establish workflows and processes between the various teams of our go-to-market functions. But really, the marketing and sales funnel is very company focused. It's an internal concept within the company, right? On the other hand, the buyer journey is about how your prospects, as I mentioned before, how your prospects go about their decision-making process to purchase. And that framework should be very buyer-centric. There's been talks in the past day and a half or so focusing on the customer and buyer. And so I think we have to change our mindset of how we think about go-to-market. And this concept of the buyer journey decision process is central to that. Okay, so here are a couple of decision frameworks. Many of you have probably heard of the first one on the upper left, awareness, interest, desire, action, AIDA. That's one of those frameworks out there. I personally don't care for that or don't like that at all, because when you execute upon it, a lot of times it comes across as also very company-centric. Hey, awareness, let's just go run some awareness campaigns. Make sure people know about our company, right? There's another one on the upper right. I think it's by this guy named Eugene Schwartz. He introduced it in a book he wrote, which in my opinion is a little bit better, unaware, problem aware, solution aware, et cetera, et cetera. For me, I'm a big fan of this framework in the middle. It was introduced by a research analyst firm called Serious Decisions. Some of you may be familiar with them. They're now part of Gartner Research. But it's a specific framework that I've been introducing to a lot of the companies that I work with, right? So I can't claim credit for this. This is not my idea, but I have utilized it quite a bit, and I'll show you why I'm such a big fan of it. Okay, so in my line of work, in my day job as a growth advisor at startups, I find that a lot of companies have this down. We have a product, we solve for these problems, and they probably have identified certain use cases, solving for this type of solution or use case. And a lot of times they have identified their target personas, their ICP, ideal customer profile. But there's something that's missing in the middle, right? And I think this is where that understanding of the buyer journey decision framework comes into play. And so to me, this is the bridge that connects these two concepts. And so here's another key thought that I want to leave you with. The buyer journey decision frameworks helps you create messaging maps. There's been a lot of talk about and focus around messaging, right, to your buyers, right? Create messaging maps which aligns your go-to-market teams on communicating the right messages to the right people at the right time. Okay, so let me introduce to you this framework from Serious Decisions. There's plenty of frameworks out there. The reason why I like this is because it's very prescriptive, okay? And so I'll go through each of these really quick and I'll provide an example. So from a buyer journey decision process, the first stage is around loosening the status quo. And your goal as a go-to-market leader is to help the prospect, your target audience, loosen the status quo. That could be around really reinforcing and educating on the pain points, the needs, challenges that you're trying to solve for. Or if you're in perhaps more of a category creation type of scenario, it's around the before and after, old world versus new world. Same thing with if you guys are in sales or familiar with the challenger sale, right? It's talking about, hey, your old world is broken. Here's a better way of doing things, right? It's about loosening the status quo. The second stage is committing to change. If they have been convinced that their status quo needs to be loosened, well, the second phase or second stage is all about creating that urgency. Focus on, why do you need to address this now, today, okay? Not 6 months from now, today. The third stage is once they're past the first two stages, they're in the mindset of, all right, what can I do to solve for this? They're now in a point where they're starting to explore potential solutions, right? And then the stage 4 after committing to solution, this is where they begin to evaluate, all right, this solution does a better job of meeting my unique needs than the next one, right? And this is where differentiation comes into play and how your solution could uniquely meet their prospects, the prospect's needs at this point. 5 and 6, justifying the decision and making the selection, is about making the prospect feel good about their decision to select you, right? And if you guys are a fan of consumer purchasing psychology, like I am, and I don't claim to be an expert on this, you may have heard that a lot of times people make a decision to purchase from an emotional standpoint, and then they rationalize it afterwards, right? And so you could kind of think about it from the very top, very emotion-driven, down to the bottom, logic and rationalization.